This conference will now be recorded.
(9:36). Opportunity for public comments. Is there anybody online, Callie?
There are, but there were no comments.
No comments? Anybody here have any comments? So I brought up two comments. We kind of already talked about them with the, I want to send out my hope they recover the e-bike company that opened up here recently in the last 6 months. If you don't know, burned down on Saturday night. Talking about e-bike batteries and what you need to do. Unplug your e-bike batteries. It doesn't matter whether you buy it at a bike shop or buy it on eBay or anything like that. It's called ion runoff, and a lot of the e-bike batteries, even that bike shops sell, are not UL certified. That's the people that certify all your plugs, your switches, and everything else like that. So just beware if you have bought an e-bike and the batteries do explode. I'm not saying that it's going to, but just follow the warning labels and the cautions that they put out on those batteries. And then we're going to, any other public comments? And then staff update. Up there. There she is.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Hope.
So for some staff updates on the screen in front of y'all, you'll see our meetings for KTMPO coming up until our next BPAC meeting in June. So if you're interested in attending any of those, you're welcome to come and listen in, have some good conversation with other transportation policymakers in our region. Moving on to the next slide. So we have a few staff updates from the TxDOT BPAC meeting that happened in January. They talked about the statewide active transportation plan, which is a statewide plan for more biking and pedestrian facilities. And that draft plan should be a draft plan for that should be ready in summer of 2024, so this coming summer. From their outreach that they had in the first rounds of public outreach, they had roughly 4,800 touch points, which came from online surveys, interactive map, and in-person meetings, as well as pop-up events. So that's quite a large turnout for what we normally get. And from those meetings came several key themes that they saw, which was number one being safety is at the top of this plan and its importance for bike and pedestrian facilities. The second tier of that was connectivity and accessibility for all forms of users. And the third tier of that was community needs, the comfort of the facilities, and the health of our region. They also talked about the TxDOT statewide multimodal transit plan, which is a little different from the action plan or active transportation plan because this one deals more with public transit, more congestion, and integrating with other modes of transportation. They've just kind of kicked off that plan more recently, and they will be actually talking with MPOs here soon, hopefully in our region, to get more of what each MPO needs out of that plan. The TxDOT BPAC meeting also covered a presentation from the Texas A&M Transportation Institute, or TTI, on bike safety research. They did an overview of crash modification factors and other development of those kind of infrastructure to help protect bike and pedestrian facilities. They have a full report linked in the packet inside of the TxDOT BPAC meeting. They have a full report breaking down all of their findings and data and new crash modification factors that could be implemented into our infrastructure, which could be useful in the coming Safe Streets and Roads for All plans. Next thing on the agenda I wanted to talk about was at the last BPAC meeting, we had a presentation from the bicycle network analysis from Ms. Davies. She covered a lot of our region, and that's missing a lot of linkages for active transportation or trails. So if you're interested in helping out with that, we've linked to the presentation inside of our meeting packet, which takes you to our YouTube. And she covered kind of how you can help out and put in some of our information. That presentation starts at 45 minutes and 27 seconds inside of our presentation from last time. And then moving on, as you guys know, this is the year of updating lots of plans, and with that, we've updated the public engagement plan, and that's been a lot of hard work, especially from Anita, on getting that out the door. And it's been officially approved, and it's really geared towards our public and them being able to be engaged with our decision making. And so we're really proud of that and the work that's went into that. We also have been working on the Safe Streets and Roads for All active action plan with our consultants. We're looking to have some more pop-ups coming these next several months to really get public feedback and really dive in on locations where safety improvements are really needed. So if you're interested, please be looking out for some of those engagement opportunities. And then lastly, as you guys know, we just closed out our project call for 2023. And we're thankful for the scores we did get back. We only received 2 scoring sheets from BPAC. So in the future, we would love to have more engagement from this, especially since TAC will be taking this scoring to their workshop to discuss and provide rankings for all of these projects. These will be coming out in the next several months on full scores of what projects will be implemented in our next MTP. So please be on the lookout for that. And since we only received 2 scores back, we don't really know what BPAC will look like participating in the future. We really want to have more engagement from this committee in being able to provide those scores. We are thankful for the 2 scores we did get back. But yeah, we'll look for y'all's opinions and advice on how y'all would like to best advise in this in the future. And moving on. So as you can see on your screen, we have the air quality for the month of February, and that was 51 and 48 parts per billion for the Temple and Killeen monitoring stations. So yeah. Any questions for me?
Thanks, Hope. Real quick on the project call. I know Jason put in an effort to make sure that we had something, that we had an input into that in the future projects. Again, there was only 2 people that put in the information on that. Everybody, I believe, there was a voting member, and I believe everybody that was a member had been given that to put in the input. And even though we only had 2 people did input stuff, it actually made a difference, and it made people talk about what we thought should be the projects in comparison to what the TAC thought should be the projects. And yeah, we ended up being a lot, their top 7. We had 4 of their top 7, not in the same order. But again, it did cause people to talk about what we thought was important in comparison to what the TAC themselves thought was important. So if we get to do a vote again next year, then we should sit down and actually get as many votes and as many people involved in that to get it into the system. Next is,
Can I say something about that?
Yeah.
You know, and if you're curious about the scoring criteria or what the projects deserve, you know, do I think this is a safe route to school? Should I give them 5 points or 2 points? You know, give me a call. I've been talking about these project criteria for probably 10 years now. I can bring you up to speed and help you decide how to score the project. But like you said, you know, put the BPAC scores and the TAC scores side by side. They're close, but they're not the same. And if I was the project sponsor and TAC gave my, you know, ranking 10, but BPAC, I can't talk this morning. BPAC ranked me number one, I'd be going to TAC and pounding the table saying, my score should be adjusted, my project should be funded. Because the entire committee thinks so, not because I think so as the sponsor, because the committee thinks so. So what I'm preaching, admittedly so, is your input matters. Your input is going to determine which projects get funded and where that money gets spent. So, you know, in terms of why is it worth your time, you can sway the balance on a particular project. That's my soapbox. So
What's the last time we did this was 2 years ago or so. What's the consequence of those projects that were not funded? Do they remain on the table and the cards get reshuffled? I was thinking about the connector between Dalton and 31st Street, the Georgetown Railroad conversion. Is that card still one of those that was considered?
yeah, it's still on there. It may not mean that it doesn't get funded through the MPO, but it maybe goes back to the city. They find the money in their own budget to do so. Typically, if you've been on the project list for a while, you've been scored, there is some consideration for longevity, but it doesn't guarantee that just because you've been there that long, well, it's my turn. You need to kind of make that case.
I do each time. How did it fare in this most recent go around?
Decent. Where are we at? I've got the spreadsheet. I think we scored higher on TAP. Yeah, so it scored 7 by TAP, 15th from BPAC, interestingly enough. So it may be high enough, we'll see, if it funded through this project. We submitted it, Temple took it to the text.ta off project, didn't get selected, talked to them, you know, got a review afterwards, why it didn't get funded. And there were some areas we scored well and some areas we didn't. One of the things that they score highly is addressing documented safety hazard. There isn't a documented, they're having crashes there because there really has to be a trail. So they said, you got great points for showing that, yes, you are now going to be putting people across the first street. And recognizing the mitigations will be needed. We scored well for that, but we didn't score as well as other projects that have a history of sidewalk next to a road or a trail that exists, but there was no crossing and there was a pattern of crashes. They scored higher because their project was going to address that. So we're going to keep trying to find money for that.
When will be the next shot at another round of scoring?
So for the text.ta calls every 2 years.
2 years.
So we didn't make it last year, so then 25 will be the next round. And we may just find money in the parks budget.
So like Jason said, the biggest thing is the more info we can provide, the more we develop the trails for what we see it as and have an input and actually a say what's going on. So agenda item number 4, approval of the minutes from the December 13th meeting. Ask for a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion and seconded. The action is approved. Do we get to vote? Oh. Thanks, Jason. That's why we keep Jason around. All in favor? Aye.
Aye, yeah.
Anybody nay? No? Okay. So the action is passed. Agenda item number 5. Resolution for the 2024-04, recognizing April as the National Distracted Driving Awareness Month. And I'll pass it.
Thank you, Gary. So the policy board approved the resolution recognizing April as National Distracted Driving Awareness Month. However, in the future, what we would like to do is bring these resolutions to the BPAC at the end of the year so that we would have more time to plan for the future. We do have some, we got Judge Miller with Coryell County from the policy board to do some videos. And so we're going to have a campaign for our region. And so y'all will be hearing about that, but I've got one up on the video that Callie's going to play right now. This is a trendy little video. So that's for the specific campaign running from April 3rd to the 10th. There might be an increased law enforcement presence regarding distracted driving. So there's 3 other campaigns that we're going to use, and we're going to share those throughout the month of April in various mediums. So once again, I just want to apologize that we didn't get this to y'all for a recommendation in our December meeting, so that we could plan appropriately. However, come December of 2024, we want to put all 3 of the resolutions that really impact BPAC to the committee so that we can have plenty of time to plan those out.
I'd be interested to know what the consequences are in our cities. I have no idea what the rules are in Temple and what the penalties are in Temple. For instance, talking or texting while you're driving.
I don't know if we've got any additional laws other than the state law.
I don't know what state law is.
State law says you're not supposed to do it.
But how do you define it and what is the consequence?
From talking to other law enforcement officers, it's less the penalty, it's more of them being able to communicate that a crime was committed. They pull you over for speeding, they can pull the radar gun. Whereas distracted, they can just say, I saw you using your phone. No, you didn't. Go to court, fight it. So a lot of times the enforcement is true. Even though,
But is it a law that you cannot be on your phone while you drive?
I know that it's a state law. I don't know that the Temple has it. I'm going to change the chair. This is weird.
It seems like in school zones, they target that pretty hard, but I don't know if they ever pull over people for being on their phones in school. Right.
And that's the type of information that seems to be a pretty basic question to me that we need to get out there. If we're going to call people's attention to it, we need to define it.
Thank you for that comment, Keller. What I remember, and Jason, I'm not sure if you were involved in some of these discussions for the Safe Streets and Roads for All, when we did have law enforcement attend some of the conversations, that was one of the things that they mentioned, is that there isn't a consistent way to document if a crash happened because of distracted driving. And because of that, that is one of the issues with even trying to track what types of, how a crash happened, if it was a verifiably distracted driving. So hopefully we can use some peer pressure to get people to go above the law and do what's right versus rely on the law to keep us in check.
Yeah, make good choices, whether it's illegal or not.
Is there any other discussions regarding Distracted Driving Awareness Month?
I'll note that we're taking a resolution or a proclamation to City Council next week. Temple's going to follow suit with what the MPO is doing.
Okay.
So you probably see me up there next to the mayor, ranking Reagan. So I'll take that. If the question comes up, what is there a Temple ordinance? If not, it's the state law. I'll be prepared for that. You're going to make me look smart.
The name is humorous to me. We celebrate Black History Month. Are we going to celebrate distracted drivers?
It should be National Distracted Driving Awareness.
Oh, awareness, okay.
Awareness.
Okay, yeah, let's celebrate
Yeah.
awareness.
Yeah, yes, the awareness part. If I left that out, forgive me.
Thank you, no, that's, I stand aware.
Any other comments?
Street parties specifically. What'd you say?
Agenda item number 6, resolution for the 2024, recognizing May as the National Bike Month, near and dear to my heart. I just want to say one thing. I think that it's something we could promote, and I'm a bad person for not doing it, but trying to get businesses in the month of May to get on the registry as bike-friendly businesses. I'm a bike shop. I own a bike shop. I own 2. But again, my bike shop is not on that, on the Temple list of bike-friendly businesses, which means I believe you have to have a bike, a place to park your bike, and then what else? A place to park your bike.
It's water, or is there was a program we had where we putting out these stations for tools. You can experience your repairs, there's some elements, buyers that are tethered to the ability to use the bathrooms, get some water.
Yeah, so it'd be good if we, and I'll do my registration to get bike-friendly business, but promoting small businesses to join in the program, because I'll pass it to Anita, but she'll go through everything that goes on that month, and there's a lot that can help with the school and like bike to work week and stuff like that.
To be bike friendly, is there still like a $25 fee or $20 fee for business to? Jason, we had that program where
We did, well, I don't remember.
Yeah, it was 2 or 3 years ago, we did that.
Yeah, because that paid for some of the, give you a sticker.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
the door.
I didn't know if people were still had to pony up a little bit of money.
Yeah.
This is the first I've heard of the program. I can research it, and
We
I
had
don't know if we'll be able
a couple
to.
years ago.
So did we fund that certification or that registration? Is that what you're saying,
So
Jason?
there was,
It was on
the idea was that the business would come forward, have the application form, say, here's the things I'm doing to be bike friendly. And then we get stickers made, we put them on the website, promote them through social media. The whole thing kind of fizzled around 2019 and then into 2020 when there was a bunch of staff turnover here and the pandemic happened. Like a lot of things got dropped.
Yeah.
So I saw that on our website, but I didn't really understand what it meant. So I can research it, and our next
I
meeting
can
is
visit
in,
with you after.
okay.
Go back.
I know when I started coming to these meetings, it was part of the registration. The registry was listed on the KTMPO page. So, I mean, it's just something that, I mean, if we can revitalize it, I mean, even if it's not even a sticker, but just having small businesses that are bike friendly and then build from there. It makes a difference also when it comes down to trail building and what the community wants to look like as a whole in general with pedestrians and bicycles and everything else. I can go to this business after riding this trail and get a glass of water or a cup of coffee or whatever else there would be.
When we launched it, it ended up being, a bit of free advertising for the businesses too. We launched, got a few businesses planted on board. News report went down to Barrow. They installed a bike rack and a little tool station. So she gets on her bike, films herself riding up to Barrow, locking the bike, filling up her water bottle, saying, blah, 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 bike friendly. Well, it was a big commercial for Barrow Brewing. But that's part of the incentive for being part of that program, that you get that promotion. So let's promote the business. So that would be part of, and I think, Anita, you're very good at promotion and social media stuff. That would be a big component of it. Back.
Well, that was going to be my question. I have a copy of the resolution. It's in your packet. Under now therefore be it resolved, and it lists all the different dates that we want to promote. Could we add in the promoting bike friendly businesses and revive that? Or is it going to take more
I
planning?
would say let's approve this and then let's plan that separately.
Okay,
So we're not changing that.
okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I do like that idea.
Okay, so I'll get with Jason afterwards and we'll research that and see that how we can bring some life back into that program. And the other dates that we wanted to talk about is on Sunday, May 5th is Ride a Bike Day. Wednesday, May 8th is Bike to School Day. May 13th through the 19th is Bike to Work Week. And Friday the 17th is Bike to Work Day. So all those dates will be recognized in our resolution that we're recommending for TAC and Policy Board to approve.
In past years, there's been a ride of silence in May. Do you know anything about that this year, Gary? Who might organize that?
I believe it's still going to be down in Nolanville. The city of Nolanville has been promoting that probably for the last 5 years.
We will put that on their calendar.
It's something that we agree with and we support. And I believe it is, when I read this yesterday, I believe the date was actually in there. The Ride of Silence date was actually listed in here.
May I intercede? Ms. Kara has accepted a position with the Texas State Parks. So she has been the major force behind that Ride of Silence.
Yeah.
So when I emailed her, she said that she would give me some information back. And so I think that she's in transition, as you can imagine, leaving that role and going into another role.
I can
So-
actually speak to that. I work with Kara.
Okay.
She's asked me to be here.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank
she
you.
has every intention of doing the Ride of Silence again.
Okay.
I'll get with her. Tomorrow is her last day, and we wish her well.
Yes, we do.
But this is near and dear to her, so she wants to see it to conclusion.
Is that she's going to move to Austin?
No, she's currently in Belton. She just bought a home there, but I believe a few days out of the week, she's going to work from home. And then other than that, she'll also keep an office in Austin. So I'll probably see a lot of her.
She is a tremendous asset to this community and the state of Texas. So I know that we're going to all be better for wherever she goes.
No, she's going to be able to have more of a regional influence now, which is really great. So, yeah.
So her title is, if I remember, she messaged me, grants coordinator, is that the job title?
I believe, and I'm not quite sure in terms of the turf, it depends. It may float a little bit depending upon the applications that come in, where funding goes to, but she should be probably serving this region. I guess apparently there's quite a few coordinators covering such a large state. So
And sir, can you tell me your name? I'm sorry.
it's Brian O'Connor.
Brian, thank
Yeah.
you.
On the Rite of Silence website, it shows the third Wednesday of May, it'd be May 15th, is the national date for the Rite of Silence. I don't know if that
Okay.
works out, but that's on their website.
Are you familiar with any dates that have been planned yet, Brian?
I know, she just asked me to cover for others
Okay.
just this morning after staff meeting, so I'll get back and I will ask her to kick out an email to you folks and let you know what her intentions are.
We would love to, our TAC meeting is next week, and then the policy board is mid-April. We'd love to have that date added into our resolution.
Okay,
We could.
I'll let her know. We'll get it done before today.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank you.
Are there any other conversations or discussions that you would like to have about recognizing May 2024 as National Bike Month?
I recommend approval of the resolution on the May 2024 National Bike Month.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I recommend approval of the resolution for National Bike Month. Agenda item number 7, everybody's near and dear to this solar eclipse happening on April 8th. Jesse?
Yes.
An update on the solar eclipse event from Jesse Hennigan, Assistant Director of Planning and Public Safety. Jesse will cover the general overview and expectations and potential impacts of shared use paths, trails, and regional city parks. I know there's a huge concern about what's going to be going on from 400,000 people in Bell County to over 1 million people is what they're projected. So, hand it over to Jesse.
Yep, so good morning. I know most of you or everybody's aware of the Eclipse at this point. We've been planning on this event for over a year now. So we're ready for it to come and go, so we can move on with our lives. But like you said, we're expected to double or more than double our population here within the county and within our 7-county region. I've done a little bit of asking around about how it's going to affect, pedestrian traffic, bike traffic, and things like that. I haven't got any real solid feedback on that. I think just the expectation and what we're planning for is just the overall number of people who are going to be here. And I think that it's really going to uncover a lot of issues or things for you moving forward. Just because I think that there's going to be a lot more pedestrian traffic and bike traffic just because of the congestion of vehicular traffic, public transportation, they're going to be affected by that as well. First responders and things like that. So just a couple of things that we are planning on that may not have been disclosed in some social media sites or press releases, things like that. Obviously, we're telling people to be prepared by all the essential things you may need probably this coming weekend with Easter going on and everything like that. But stores and shops may be running low on items after the fact because people could be stuck here for a little bit longer than expected. Not that they can just up and leave on the 8th after the eclipse. We do plan on there being heavy traffic the 9th and possibly even the 10th. And we're basing all of this off of the previous event that took place out west and mostly Wyoming. We've reached out to a lot of those entities and just found that it was chaos. As much as they planned, there were just things that were unavoidable. So just make sure you get water and food to kind of get you through. And if you don't have to leave the house, maybe a good idea for those couple of days. Also within our department, we work with a lot of the 911 public safety answering points throughout the region. We are expecting heavy delays in response times, obviously because of traffic. So if you do have an emergency, obviously call or text 911, but there is the potential that you'll have to call multiple times to try and get through. And with that, that's even if the cellular network is available. So, you go to a football game or a sporting event or any type of event that has a large gathering of people, sometimes your connectivity is not the greatest. So we're expecting that to be an issue. So as far as 911 is concerned, two issues that we're looking at there. One being trying to get the call out to 911 via cell phone, and that call being answered depending on how busy they are. We have requested and we've been approved for additional telecommunicators to come into the region. And all agencies that I'm aware of are going to be fully staffed during this event, as well as law enforcement, fire, other first responders. So everybody's going to be out and about working to the best of their abilities, but just be patient with any kind of emergency services that you may come across. Traffic and safety, something that I think is going to be a big deal. Obviously, with the influx of vehicular traffic, could cause a potential issue with pedestrians or bicycles, just accelerated more than any normal day. We've coordinated with the Civil Air Patrol. We're going to be running 2 missions per day on the 7th, 8th, and 9th. They're going to be flying in a small aircraft throughout our region, the flight plan that we've designated, just to kind of give us an overview and radioing back that traffic, where the congested areas are, where the maybe more of the accessible roadways are, to start directing traffic in those areas. Another thing that we have to worry about is, from what we learned from the Wyoming Eclipse, a lot of these people who are coming in are going to go to the complete totality areas, Lampasas area. And once that eclipse starts to move on, they're going to hop in their cars and try and follow it. So that's going to be very interesting. Something to be concerned about there is just erratic driving, people avoiding other drivers driving off of the roadways is a concern for us, which we think is going to create some issues, people getting stuck, especially if it rains, or interfering with pedestrian traffic.
That sounds like distracted driving.
Yes.
You get ticketed for having your head out the window.
Looking up with tinted glasses and driving at the same time.
Well, in one of the photo clubs that I'm a member of last fall, one of the guys gave a presentation and they had gone up to that one. They said, watch the weather. If you're bound to turn to get a picture of the eclipse, then watch the weather. And if it gets cloudy where you are, be prepared to jump in your car and chase that eclipse at a moment's notice. So
Wow.
great for the photographers,
I want to stick to
bad
that.
for the drivers looking out the window, looking up at the dang. Yeah.
And I want to speak to that because we have a company coming in from North Carolina, and the current 14-day forecast says there's a 30% rain chance in Central Texas. It's expected to be partly cloudy. If you thought you could drive southwest to Junction, which is near the center line, there's also a 9% rain chance in Junction, and the forecast is partly cloudy skies. It's not looking optimal for Texas at this point, but we all expect that to change 2 weeks out. But people are attentive to that type of information on a day-by-day basis now. I appreciate the advanced planning on the emergency services.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people in all the meetings we go to is hopefully it's just cloudy and rains and we don't see all these people, but go somewhere else. From what we've learned from Wyoming, they're still going to come. I mean, they've already made plans and arrangements, so they're going to take that chance, especially with partly cloudy. So I don't know if it'll.
I looked at getting a hotel reservation in Junction, and there's a Days Inn Motel 6 type place that's ordinarily $89 a night. And the night before, the night after the eclipse, is $890 for an ordinary hotel. It's an economic bring a lot of people.
I mean, with that, and going back to the network issues, I know a lot of businesses, all businesses at this point, use like credit card machines or debit card machines that may or may not be functioning at that time. So I plan to take out a little additional cash and have it on hand just in case I need something. But we're also going to be stationing some fuel tanks out in the more rural areas because we expect that a lot of those people are going to come in and just completely use up all the fuel that's available at gas stations. So we're trying to pre-position and hopefully be able to move those to some of the locations so people aren't just stuck out of gas in small towns and have to wait a couple of days before they can get restocked. But just another thing that we're considering.
I was interested to hear you say you can text 911. I didn't know that.
Yeah, we made that available. That's something our department, we got that completed about 3 years ago, I guess. And the idea behind that is we still want you to text or to call 911 if it's an emergency, you're able to talk. But if it's a situation, domestic violence type situation or anything else where you're not available to make a phone call or use your voice, you can text the 911 and you'll get a response the exact same way.
Does it convey location information?
It does now. So that's our latest implementation of 911. It's called Next Generation 911. We just completed it 2 weeks ago. So if you're familiar with Uber and things like that, where whenever you look for your location on your phone, it shows a blue dot where you are within a few meters. As with a lot of government entities, we're a little slow to catch up to technology. So we just implemented that now, to where if you call from a cell phone device, it will triangulate your location and be able to get that location. Whereas up until 2 weeks ago, you weren't able to do that. You had to get your exact location. I mean, that's important, especially for text to 911, or if you don't know your location and passing through. And for all the newcomers coming to our area may not know where they are, we can now identify where they are. So good timing on that. One of our first text to 911 calls that we received was it was somebody in the backseat of a vehicle and the driver was intoxicated, and they were texting law enforcement as they were traveling, and they were able to get that vehicle pulled over and dealt with accordingly. So aside from the text messages saying, does this really work, and things like that, it's been really beneficial, and I think people are utilizing it pretty well. But trying to get past a lot of texts coming in about noise complaints or things like that. It's not what it's designed for. I mean, if you can call obviously. But
Was that new capability attributable to Eclipse preparation, or was that just coincidental?
No, it's just coincidental. These are both things, the texting and next generation 911, we've been working on since I started here. I'm sure Jason heard about it whenever he was working here 6 or 7 years ago. So it's been a process, but we finally got both of those knocked out. So it's been nice to get those accomplished and put behind us as well.
So some things accelerated because of Eclipse preparation?
No, you can't really accelerate telecommunications companies. They don't really care what you have going on. So, just happened to work out that way. But texting is something that Bell County Communications has been pushing, letting everybody know that if you can't get through on a call, they expect text messages to work better. I guess just less data usage coming through the network. So that may be an option if you do have an emergency and just can't get through. Try sending a text. But we have all of our communication centers, or our PSAPs, public safety answering points. It's kind of a network setup to where if, let's say, Copper's Cove gets flooded with calls, then their calls will be transferred, just go down the line to Gatesville, and then it'll continue through a loop to where maybe somewhere a little bit out west who's not in the path of totality will be able to answer those calls. And if none of our PSAPs can answer the calls, they'll be shipped out to surrounding counties and PSAPs that aren't going to be impacted very much by the eclipse. So,
Like Pakistan and.
Right. Well, we had it at one point, I think it was during the freeze, we had calls going to Canada, which kind of baffled us, but it bounced to Canada and then back to us if possible.
Wow.
How do they triage them when that happens?
They don't. They really don't. They just try and get them back to PSAP as best they can because, I mean, even outside of our region or outside of our county where you're familiar with, you can't really dispatch because you're not familiar with the lay of the land and anything like that. There's a lot of data that comes with a 911 call, but still, if you're not familiar with the area, it's hard to really get that to the first responder. But yeah, how they triage, that'll be a PSAP policy, how they deal with things internally, how they're going to prioritize what calls get what. A broken bone or a non-life threatening, if emergency vehicles can't get around to get to you and then get you to a hospital, they're definitely going to direct those calls to the more life-threatening situation. I know a lot of law enforcement and other agencies are going around asking their neighbors and just trying to get the goodwill of some of the surrounding companies and getting gators and side-by-sides so that they can go on the sides of roads and things like that. So, you have any outreach to pedestrians and bicycle traffic, just be on the lookout for other law enforcement vehicles trying to use alternate means of getting through and navigating through some of this traffic.
Tractors?
Probably about whatever they can get on that.
Do you know anything about the deployment of porta potties or any of the cities putting porta potties out in areas where you expect people to congregate?
I think porta potties are just as valuable as a hotel room at this point. I know 6 to 8 months ago, I had heard, I can't confirm, but I had heard that down in the Georgetown area, they had already reserved most of the porta potty rentals in, the 35 region and plan to put them on the side of I-35, just to try and get people somewhere to use the restroom as opposed to the tree line, I guess.
Yeah.
I think that's a very possible situation that's going to happen. I-35, if somebody has a flat tire, it causes miles of delay. So all these people, it's going to be interesting. Another thing maybe to consider is going to be cleanup afterwards. I think that's going to be an issue. So some of your bike paths and things like that. Get some volunteers together. Maybe we can coordinate something to go out and help out, but I imagine that's going to be an issue as well.
When the counties declare an emergency, is there funding for cleanup in that?
Right now, there's not any funding being allocated for this. The governor had used the fall partial eclipse as a test or a model to see how bad this is going to be, how much it's going to impact our region or our state. I don't know that that's a real great idea personally because it was a partial. Nobody's really traveling for a partial eclipse. So his guidance has basically just been that this is going to be a local event, so it's on all the local jurisdictions to handle this. I know with the declarations, there have been a lot of STAR requests, which is the State of Texas assistance requests, so that you can ask for additional assets through the state to be deployed. A lot of those have been submitted throughout our region. Not a lot have been approved. This is going through the entire state, so everybody's asking for things, but there will be additional personnel, DPS, troopers, and some of the areas that don't have a lot of law enforcement to help with traffic control. A lot of other state agencies are going to be bringing in personnel just to help out wherever they can, whether it's traffic flow or any other areas to try and get everybody in and get everybody out of here once it's over. But no funding as of right now. We'll see what comes at the end of it. That's kind of the point of the disaster declaration, is to be able to request those funds or those assets during or before, during, or after the event. And I'd like to, I've never attended this committee before, but I'd like to come back maybe in a couple of months, get this thing done. I know your next meeting, I think, was the 12th, probably a little too soon, but I'd like to kind of see how it did impact you. And just get those notes, because we're going to have a lot of after action reviews with Texas Department of Emergency Management. I'm also part of the Homeland Security Advisory Committee, so I'd like to be able to pull some of that information from you and see what those impacts were, what you saw. Just moving forward, how maybe we can try and mitigate some of those risks down the road. Not that we're going to have another eclipse in our area in our lifetime. I looked.
It's going to happen. It's like 50 years from now, but it's going to happen.
Yeah. The next one I saw, I think, is pretty much through a lot of the oceans. Not going to hit a lot of land, but it will happen. I'll be retired by then. As will a lot of the people I'm working with on this. I think they're going to retire April 9th.
Jesse, is there a form or something that you would want us to use to document the impact, like so that we can all have like a standard?
I don't necessarily have a form. Just, maybe here in a couple of months, if you want to put it on the agenda, I can come back and attend. We can just take notes, or anybody want to provide me emails or anything that you've seen. However you want to do it,
okay.
It's fine with me. And I left a couple of business cards back on the back table. So if you do have questions, this isn't just Bell County, correct?
No, this is the Killeen-Temple MPO region.
Okay, so everybody's got, with the aside of Coryell County, everybody has an emergency management coordinator. They're going to have more of your more localized policies and procedures and their expectations. They've had several meetings. Temple and everyone else had several meetings for this. So they're going to have a lot of that more localized information. If you don't know who that person is or who to reach out to, you can contact me and I'll give you that emergency management coordinator's information. You can reach out to them for more specifics if you need it. But I've attended several regional meetings, and we're planning for the worst. Could just turn out to be absolutely nothing, but we'll see. I think that what we're expecting and what we've been planning for, we can probably expect to happen.
I hope you'll bring stories of yours when you come back too.
Bring what?
Stories of yours.
I will. Yeah. Probably have less hair, but we'll see.
Sounds like a bunch of controlled chaos.
Yeah.
I actually learned something. I didn't even text 911 now, so that's actually pretty good. Yeah. Thanks, Jesse. Anybody else? So agenda item number 8, we have the King of the Mountain Trails. They're founded in 2016. KTMPO Trails specializes in working with developers, communities, and municipalities, as well as trail and biking organizations, to design and build what has now become one of, if not the most used amenity you can provide to residents and communities. Brett Jones, president and founding partner, KTMPO Trails, will be presenting on designing and constructing high-quality, sustainable trails that integrate seamlessly with the natural environment. His team of experts provide innovative solutions that enhance the user experience while minimizing environmental impact. KTMPO's #1 goal is to keep water off the trail and people on the trail.
Thank you. First off, I want to thank the committee and everybody in attendance for having us. I appreciate it. And I'm excited, like I told Gary earlier, that I love talking about trails and real excited to help anybody get more educated and learn more about it. So, sustainable trail development and maintenance. We pride ourselves on, number one, designing and building sustainable trails, but then they have to be maintained correctly afterwards. And providing education and just being able to show people that there is correct ways to do it to, number one, longevity of the trail, protect your investment, and so on. We'll get into that more into this. Our quick agenda about KTMPO trails, introduction, why sustainable trails matter, trail design techniques, strategies, environmental protection measures, social, economical benefits, and our conclusion. See, we were founded in 2016. I actually retired from my other career to start this, and I can't believe how much I've immersed myself in learning and what I didn't know about trails. And now I want to share my passion with everybody and working with municipalities and governments and helping everyone design a plan, find the goals, and create something that, you know, is going to be around for a while that everyone's going to love. What is sustainable trail development? Well, how we look at it is we want to find a balance between recreation and the environment. What we want to do is minimize the impact on everything around there, but also give the user a good experience and make it to where it's something that it's actually an amenity that everyone wants to use, where it's not, you know, something that's an old broken down trail or derelict or something that people are going to be, you know, ashamed of or scared to use. Why do they matter? Well, balance recreational use with environmental conservation, minimizing the impact on natural habitats. So when planning these, we want to go in and see anything from antiquities down to biodiversity. We want to be able to look at all this and make decisions on where the trails are going to go, how we're going to do them, who's going to be using them, who's your user base. Is this a park type trail or is it a hike and bike trail? We take all that into consideration when helping design and planning these trails out. They also promote responsible activities. If you just have a park with just grass, it's not going to have the same effect as if you have trails or what we call a bike park or something like, you know, a hike and bike trail around there, even granite trails that are just for, you know, strollers and walkers and joggers. But doing it correctly also helps, number one, maintenance and the user experience and all that. So that's where we love helping people create that and being able to obtain that with especially larger trail systems that can interconnect in different flavors of trails, what we call it, in different difficulties and different uses, from mountain bikes to equestrians to pedestrians. We take all that into account. Design techniques. Now we follow all the standard governing bodies that we have, which is the PTBA, which is Professional Trail Building Association. We have IMBA, International Mountain Bike Association, and then of course the U.S. Forest Service and things like that are our governing bodies. And then we take that and we drill down even further and go to the user and also the landowner and see what's going to be the best use for all of those decisions. So we'll take into account contour alignment and how much elevation you have, how much, you know, flat runoff that we have. We'll take all of this into account. If they have an architect or a landscape architect that they're working with, we'll work hand in hand with them to assure that, you know, we're following everyone's idea, also protecting the environment. Erosion control measures. We go, as you saw in our first thing, our main goal is managing the water. Water is our biggest enemy on especially natural surface trails. Now, trails are getting so popular now, we're having what we call improved surfaces, where we can put in soil treatment, we can put in it's almost like an Elmer's glue into the soil and lay it out, and it hardens up almost like a track where you can rain on it. It can be walked on a lot longer than other trails. And a lot of people are starting to see this and see the advantage of going that extra little bit to protect the trails. But we'll take all this into consideration with everyone when we're designing these trails. And it just helps a much better product be developed. And the end goal of seeing the users happy is what I enjoy. So during our design techniques, low impact on our building processes. There's several different ways to have trails. You can have everything from old game trails to, pedestrian built trails to what we call, just road trails that just pop up from people using them. We try not to promote any of that. We'll go in, we'll protect everything, have erosion runoff mitigated. All that taken into consideration, what water bodies are around us, all that's taken in during the planning process. Vegetation management is real important to some of our clients. And a lot of we work with the city of Cedar Park, and we do a lot of stuff through Brushy Creek Regional Park, and there's areas that they have stuff growing that they don't want anyone even having access to. So we make it clear to have it look like there's nothing over there. And just using little techniques of, adding some brush and, some little rock features that'll just deter people from walking. So all that's taken into account when we're designing. Then accessibility features. In a city environment, you can't have the same type of accessibility features like you would for wheelchairs and ADA compliance and all that. You wouldn't have that on a nature hike and bike trail. So you got to take into account where you're building this and what it's going to be used for. And then we can come up with a plan to, to accessorize all that. Signage and mapping, that goes back down to the user experience. Knowing who's going to be on your trail and how they're going to be using it. It's our responsibility to make sure that person either knows any dangers, directions, rules, all that. And all that is mitigated with the signing and mapping. And if that's done correctly, the user will have no problem getting their way around. With technology now, we're using QR codes where you can walk up to a kiosk, hit a QR code, have the whole mapping system on your phone. That way you don't have to have these giant kiosks that has to be updated all the time and trail maps change and all that. You just do it on the website and it changes the university around. So a lot of people are liking that and going to the app. We'll go to trail maintenance strategies. Once you have your trail built and it's time to start maintaining them, there's so many ways to do it correctly. And once again, you're back to managing your user experience. We take into account, is it inner city? Is it in a park environment? Are we, on a green belt along a creek? All that will be taken into account when we're deciding on the type of maintenance. And everything benefits from regular maintenance. It keeps unwanted weeds encroaching. It keeps the erosion control down. There's so much benefits to keeping your trail maintained. And a lot of people think just usage from the user is going to keep it maintained or beat in, but no, it's usually a lot of work to keep trails maintained correctly once they're built. But you'll see that the amount of users increase as you keep them maintained and done properly. The user count never goes down; it always increases. So also, if you can catch any problems early during maintenance, it's going to protect your investment. It's going to produce longevity and all that. So maintenance is very important to us. We do a lot of things for our clients to protect the environment during the construction phase. And it depends on the level that they or who wants to go there. Like some of the pictures you're seeing here, these are, it's a retaining dam where we had a trail going across it. Well, that's where the spillway was, and anytime it overflowed, it'd be a muddy, nasty mess. So they had their architect go in and design this walkway, and We installed it with riprap on the side and a 6-inch thick plate rock across, and now the spillway just goes across fine. We can use it almost the same day after it's spilled over. And using retaining walls and rock features to build head walls and stuff to protect the environment in ways where it looks natural. But to us, we know that we're, sustaining the trail and doing it correctly. So, especially for sensitive areas and stuff, this really comes into play on, keeping people where they're supposed to be, but keeping Mother Nature in place where she's supposed to be. So we're real into maintaining that part of the sustainability. Social economic benefits. Now, the University of Arkansas has done this study in Bentonville. Now, I don't know how many of you are aware that Bentonville, Arkansas has become almost the mecca of mountain biking, and it's actually a destination now for mountain bikers, believe it or not, and it's amazing what they've done out there. We've actually built a little bit of trail out there ourselves, and the whole environment, it's incredible because everything benefits from the stores to the bike shops to there's every aspect of the town that's benefiting from this. And we've included some of their study numbers on here. And a third of the residents in Northwest Arkansas reported riding a bike in the past 12 months. So we almost have the same type of class of people that ride bikes as much, in this area. So we could easily see this being duplicated in, an environment like this, where, especially if you have trail conscious people that are willing to put in the effort to do it correctly, it could benefit the city, the town, the user, everybody. I've seen it happen. I'm watching it happen here. The more people are getting more aware about the trails in Texas. Because I'm born and raised in Austin, so trails to me was usually a deer trail or an old cow trail. Now I'm so excited that this is happening for us that we're being able to do, actual sustainable, real design-built trails is amazing. Like I said at the beginning, I'm excited and I love it. Sustainable trail system, community bonds, enhances quality of life. And trails provide opportunities for social interaction, fostering a sense of community and belonging. They offer accessibility, outdoor recreation for people for all ages, promoting inclusivity. Sorry, my tongue was out. They also offer alternative transportation options. We've worked with cities where some of their sidewalks are getting crowded with bicycle usage. So what we did, we made bicycle optimized natural surface trails off of the concrete trails to relieve the traffic. And the bikers love it, the walkers and joggers love it because there's less bikes on the trails. So there's just tricks of the trade where you can use trails to your advantage to help mitigate, your users on your trails. And it's a great way to keep people outside. It's a great way to promote health. There's so many ways you can use the trails to promote all the health and wellness and environmental impacts on top of that. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up there. We provided a few pictures of just all these pictures that you've seen are ours from different various projects. And this is an example of, that's a park in Gerald. It's a development, the asphalt track that you see there. It's a tiny footprint, probably smaller than this room, where we went in and it's a total open loop. Of course, it's almost like a dirt motocross or BMX track, but it's got shotcrete asphalt on it where it goes last forever. And you can use scooters, you can use skates, you can use bicycles. I've seen kids out there on big wheels and their little Barbie bikes. It's great, anybody can use it. The one in the middle is at Elizabeth Milburn Park in Cedar Park. They had a tiny little corner of their park that wasn't being used. So we went in there and built this, it's called a bike park. It's basically dirt bicycle jumps with a starting ramp. And it's just in a circle. And they just get in line and they make runs around the bike. But in the middle, we have little wooden features and little, rides that they can ride on, for the smaller kids. And it's great. People actually travel from, all around Central Texas and bring their kids because it's a beginner-friendly little track. And we follow their Facebook page and I get, thank you notes all the time. And, I love it. That's my reward for doing all this. Once again, this is in a retainage pond, the one down below, where we're putting the plate rock on the side. That's actually in the retainage pond along the edge. This is also where we use the soil stabilizer, so when the water comes up and goes down, you don't have to go rebuild the whole track. But where the guy standing in the machine is, that's actually the bottom of the retaining pond, and we put it up against the elevated walls on the side. And it's called a flow track or a skills park, but it's mostly for mountain bikes, but they ride everything on it from, I've seen 10 speeds on it to kids on BMX bikes and everything. So
Where's that one?
that one's in Juro also. It's right across the street from the pump track and the skate park. So once again, thank y'all for letting me come in and speak with y'all. And do anyone have any questions?
Yes, sir. When you look at all of your corporate activity, how much would you say is public accessible and how much is private accessible?
That's a good question. It's probably, right now it's 60-40, 60 private, 40 public. Because right now, the developers around here are catching on that trails is their biggest community, especially since the COVID time. No one could go, trails started getting used, and so developers started providing them. And now it's like a contest between them, like who has the best swimming pool, who has the best, who has the best. So I'm excited to see how many trails of different types are going into these developments and see. But unfortunately, those are private, the residents own. Yes, ma'am.
Even with those private trails, are you seeing developers thinking about connecting to other trails? What does that look like?
We have some real open-minded ones. And we were just discussing this before the meeting. There's one in Liberty Hill that's going to try to attempt to connect down to the San Gabriel River that connects to Lake Georgetown to have their whole neighborhood access, to keep everyone off the streets and, riding on there's no sidewalk access now. So that would be their only way to access it. So yes, ma'am, that is something that's starting to bubble up to the surface.
And that's a developer that's doing that in Liberty Hill?
Yes, but it's an Army Corps of Engineers mark, so I know that they're working with them right now. I think they're talking with them to see how they can make that connection or make it sustainable, and where everything, they have to cross one person's property and they're just trying to figure out how to mitigate people wandering off the trail that's didn't want fences or anything. But that's great. Once that would be a big step. I mean, that would be almost the first in this area to have and that's a very, very large development neighborhood. I think they have right now 8.5 miles of trail that we built out there. And it's crowded every day, all throughout the day. So it would be incredible to see that.
Would that become public access?
Yes, ma'am. Theirs is public. They don't keep theirs private. The Santa Rita Ranch is the one I'm speaking about. Yes. And they have a few other developments around here, and they're great. They love their trails, and they like everyone using them. So.
Is that the Lake Georgetown Corps of Engineers?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So, a couple more questions.
Yes.
It looks like all your trails are machine built.
We do very little hand built. If it's requested, we've done some private clients out on Lake Austin that were almost 80% slope on actual cliffs that you could not get machines in. We had to actually, try to barge some stuff in, and all that was hand built. So stuff like that, yes, sir. But 80% of our work is all machine built, if possible.
Do you have an estimate how many miles of trails KOM has built?
We built right now, and we're taking into account also all the bike parks and the little footprint ones, but we're probably close to 70 miles of actually built in 6 years. Yes, sir. Anyone else?
My family lives in Bentonville. That bike path is transformed.
Isn't it?
It used to be just Walmart's headquarters.
Yeah.
And now that's all they talk about is
Exactly.
my mom lives in the country and gets riders passing her house on rock roads every day, and she's not gonna buy that.
And we have a lot of people that live here that actually have bought second homes there so they can have a place to stay while they're up there mountain biking. And It's huge. When I saw it for the first time, it blew my mind.
It's several cities and towns that.
Oh, yeah, it's Bentonville's the name, but yeah, it's Bentonville, they're all interconnected with trails too. They've gone in and gone under highways for their trails, just to get them connected.
They grade their trails kind of like ski slopes too, where they've got beginner level.
Yes.
Anybody could ride that runs alongside a scenic creek, and then there's intermediate level, there's advanced level, bombing downhills that'll scare the pants off the experienced riders. And they label them well, so you know what's
Exactly, they're signed on, they're labeled well, and, you know, they call that from grandma to grandkid. And where you pick, you know which trail that you can ride on, which ones you can't, it's signed perfectly. I mean, it's a great, you know, footprint to try to model after. Anyone else?
So one of the things we talked about before the meeting was that, I know you've shown a lot of pictures of the stuff they've done in the cities, but
Yes.
their goal is, if you look at a trail, basically when they're done, it's like the trail was just laid and there was no residue of them being there.
We
So-
pride ourselves in no impact. We want it to, our whole process is set up on keeping minimal impact. We want it to look like the trail was stamped in there when we left. So that means not even a leaf out. And we have crews that go back and reclaim everything back up to the trail. So yes, we'll have spoils and all of our, you know, dirt that goes down, especially on the big bench cuts. But then, of course, being in Texas, there aren't leaves everywhere all the time. But if not, we'll put rocks back, we'll put leaves. The guys will go back and put grasses back. We'll put it all the way back to the edge of the trail and make it look like, you know, the trail has always been there. But also with our machines, we have to get them in and get them out certain ways. And a lot of these projects, it's a one-way trip. Once you have it on the trail you're building, there's no way to back it out or anything until you're done. Especially if you're up on a mountain side, you know, you're limited to how much you can move. But that also teaches you that what you're doing, there is no going back, or if there is, it's going to be at a very high cost and a very big headache to go back to do anything again. So doing it correctly and the first time is also, you know, what we pride ourselves in. And seeing, number one, the smiles on faces on you, but how much of our trails are still around and in great shape. And because of the building techniques and because of all the sustainability tricks that we put in, and of course, everything comes with a budget, correct? I mean, we can do what we can up to the budget, but when it's done correctly, like with the rock armoring and the, doing the drainage correctly, installing culverts, and we can do more extreme stuff like that and actually hide it to where you can't even see the culverts and you don't even know that there's one there. But it's having open-minded people that understand that that's, number one, going to keep the trail in place. It's going to protect their investment. It's going to give everyone, you know, enjoyment for years to come. And if it's maintained right and all that, there's not going to be any issues. And it's a win-win for everyone.
I think the biggest thing is that I think the city and the county or whatever looks at is those social and economic benefits. I mean, if you're a numbers person, just looking at that slide alone in itself, with the benefits of having trails and bringing in the outer limits and stuff like that, and then the health benefits. He kind of breezed over the health benefits, and if I can read it,
$56 million.
59 million in avoided healthcare costs. That's a huge thing. We've dealt with MS patients and Parkinson's patients through my business, and just the impact of having that ability to ride a bike. That's the number one thing that Parkinson's patients are told to do when they have Parkinson's, is to ride a bike. Again, multi-use trail, hiking, biking, it all correlates to a better health and a better environment.
Exactly.
Anything else?
One more, I'll talk after you about volunteer efforts to build trails locally. And one of my personal objectives is to spend more time riding than I do building. What do you think about that?
That's how, it's funny because now that I'm doing this, I hardly ever get to ride. And we do projects and we were in Winter Park. We were on some of the best trails anywhere, and I'll have my bike, and I'll be so tired at the end of the day that, you don't want to get on the bike for a ride. But that's the same way I started. I was like, man, I was always riding, but then I'd stop and start, fixing the trail somewhere, and it just started getting worse and worse. So I don't know how to answer your question correctly. But we do use volunteers. We've done projects where we worked with the municipality to where they provided volunteers. It also helps stretch their dollar, where like the last few days we'll have a volunteer day. They can come in and help finish up doing the raking or doing some trash cleanup or compacting and all that, and just have a big event to where it's a big volunteer day, but also teach them how to do it correctly and give them some tips and tricks on how to keep it up once we're gone.
They may become the maintainers after you guys finish.
What's that?
They may become the maintainers.
Exactly, and that's what we want. And we find out that, and it always is not locals, but once people start getting involved and working, they take a little ownership to it, and then they start wanting to do it more, and then it's kind of what we call the fear of missing out. Everyone else is like, oh, I want to join in, and it's just kind of infectious and contagious. And, Austin has some great volunteer group. Austin Ridge Riders, they're great. I mean, and if they call in the right people, they can have huge groups show up to build and maintain. So we got to promote and help groups like that. And even though we are a for-profit entity, we have no problem working with volunteers and doing classes or coming to things like this to help. Any way we can. Man. I love trails so much, and I can sit here and talk about it all day and ramble on. But yeah. So anything else?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, Keller.
Yeah, Keller.
Thank you.
Thank you much. I'm Keller Matthews. I brought show and tell that I'll talk about in just a minute. It's like a 760-page text. Talk about here in just a second. Won't scare you. Thank you for inviting me, and thanks for putting me after Brett. I think that Stan really enjoyed the presentation. Appreciate that. And I think that we've got a similar mindset, got a passionate desire to get more people out walking, using trails. My clicker, I think, is not working. Oh, there we go. Good. Briefly, my history was I retired after being an anesthesiologist. Just got my wife for 37 years and have spent the last couple of years building, riding, enjoying trails. For 10 years before that, I was on the board of Miller Springs Nature Alliance. Some of you locally may know about that, and have had an interest in trails as long as I've been mountain biking, I guess, since 1996. I've done an International Mountain Bike Association workshop and a Texas Trail Tamers. You all probably know them.
Yes.
One of their workshops, a couple of IMBA workshops. I was asked to also talk about the Master Naturalists because they are probably the leading local volunteer agency for trail building. And we've got a couple of sites and projects that we work on. The Master Naturalist program may also have interest for this group because it pertains to a lot of things that engage citizens with nature and teach people how to become nature scientists. It's a program that was started between Texas Parks and Wildlife and Texas A&M's. It used to be called the Extension Service or the county agents. Now it's called AgriLife. But since 1997, they have developed 48 chapters. I've got a map here I'll show you in a second. Our local chapter is called the Central Texas chapter. It's mainly Bell County, a little bit of Coryell County, reaches as far north as McLennan County. Classes are 16 weeks. They begin typically March 1. So we've missed the window for this year. I was on the agenda before the meeting got canceled, and if anybody said, oh, that looks great, I want to be part of that, you could join. But think about it for next year if you're interested. During that 16 weeks, you typically meet half a day, sometimes a 6-hour, 8-hour day if you have a field trip. And you have faculty who are local scientists in a great variety of domains. The goal is to create citizen volunteers who are knowledgeable and skilled So the first year you have 40 hours of classroom time and then 8 hours of volunteer time. In subsequent years, they ask that you do 40 hours of volunteer time and supplement that with 8 hours of continuing education. So you become a certified master naturalist, and then you maintain your certification by doing volunteer activities. This is the map of all the chapters. Lampasas is in a different chapter. They're in the Highland Lakes chapter, but otherwise all of our cities, Bell County includes Salado out to Killeen. Like I said, some people from McLennan County have come down to our chapter because our faculty is superb. There we go. This textbook, apologize, the print's too small to read. Land stewardship, archaeology, natural history of Texas, ecological regions, geology and soils, weather and climate, naming plants and animals, ornithology, entomology, bugs, ichthyology, fish, herpetology, lizards, mammalogy, forest ecology, aquatic systems, wetland management, urban ecosystems, laws and regulations, teaching, and citizen science. We have faculty that talk about almost all these areas. A hydrogeologist from Baylor comes down. Last week at the continuing ed meeting, they had a forensic entomologist. If you haven't thought about something really gross today, let me bring it to your mind that if a body is found underneath the bridge decomposing, after a couple of days, you get bugs crawling on it. After about a week, you get maggots going into it. And forensic pathologists can use entomology to solve crimes. They had a guy who's a forensic entomologist come talk about that at our meeting. The first meeting, they tell you how to use apps to enhance your ability to learn natural things. I love this app called iNaturalist. I have it on my phone. I use it at least every 2 or 3 weeks. If you see a bug or a plant, you don't know what it is, you can just take a picture of it, upload it to iNaturalist, and you get not only a pretty good guess about what that bird is, but you get crowdsourcing of other citizen scientists who may, I used it most recently in Port Aransas. I saw something on the beach down there, I didn't know what it was, took a picture, and you get a pretty good guess, but then somebody that lives in Port Aransas that knows that creature will say, hey, I know what that is, and give you an authoritative assessment. The other app I use a lot, mine is called BirdNet, but I think it's been updated as Merlin. And when I sit out on the back porch to eat breakfast or lunch, I hear a bird sound, and I don't quite see the bird, so I can turn on a recording device on this free app, and it says, that's a Carolina wren. And it looks like this, is a little brown job. And I look toward it, and now that I know to look for something brown, I can find it in that tree. So I'll commend to you also the Merlin app and the iNaturalist app. iNaturalist is sponsored by National Geographic. Both those are free. They're pretty intuitive to learn how to use. If you have questions about it, email me and I'll hook you up. There are annual birding events where birders say, we're going to go out today and have a bird count. And you can use iNaturalist to participate in those bird events by reporting a bird sound or a bird sighting. And they say, oh, look, 18 people found these birds in this location. Geolocate your finding. My experience, as I mentioned, the International Mountain Bike Association, I've been to 2 of their workshops. I did a long weekend with Texas Trail Tamers. I've read IMBA's manuals and have some familiarity with the same concerns that Brent has about creating sustainable trails. Not only will people use them, but they'll last a long time. In contrast, all my trails are hand-built trails that are built by volunteers. Our trail construction is probably a tenth of what he has done because we rely on volunteer part-time labor coming out after work or on the weekends. This is the trail I've worked on most recently. It's narrow single track, which I love as a mountain biker. but it's uneven grade and it's not as inviting in some ways as the trails that Brett does. And certainly if you've got a group of 3 or 4 people that want to go out together, it's a lot easier on these machine-built wider trails that have a more predictable surface. But this is at the Boy Scout camp, Camp Tahoya. And my thoughts in designing a trail, here, I've got a slide about this. Yeah, this kind of talks about my thoughts in developing trails are similar to his. You have to have landowner permission. You need to know what their goals are, find where they coincide with you. For Master Naturalists, we only work on publicly accessible land. It doesn't have to be publicly owned. But the Scouts used to be a private entity that only had private primitive camping sessions. They now open their camp several times a year to public activities, so the Master Naturalists can help them with volunteer labor. We identify the boundaries, we look for existing trails to network with, including animal trails, identify desirable landmarks like that waterfall or a big limestone cliff, or out there they've got incredible trees, cottonwood trees that 5 people couldn't get their arms around, sycamore trees that are 60 feet high. We try to run trails near those features that make you pause and say, wow, I'm so glad I came out today. We anticipate erosion, try to ameliorate those destructive effects. We plan what are users going to want to do when they get on this trail. Do they want to go for a 10-hour hike or do they want to go for a 10-minute hike? Try to design trails that will satisfy people's goals, make those goals accessible at the outset. So when you step on this trail, you know if you're going to do the whole thing, it's going to take you 30 minutes or an hour to do the whole thing. The map and signage plan, like Brad talked about, we have planned for, but I didn't install any QR codes, and I'm eager to ping you on email to get some tips on that. We anticipate emergency services, particularly when I was working with Miller Springs. How can we get emergency vehicles out if somebody has a twisted ankle or crashes a mountain bike so that people can, emergency medical services can reach them quickly. And particularly for volunteers, you want to build a team, set goals so people get enthused about coming out to help.
Just to let you know something, Midwest City, Oklahoma, they're trying to come up with a 911 enhanced for their mountain bike trails. So if someone calls in, they have some way for their dispatcher to know more where they are than just on the trails and then having them go.
Yeah, I've seen some of those too, where you just put a distance marker on there. So you can say, I'm between mile marker 7 and 8.
And the dispatcher will have an actual map and be able to see and direct it. Come to it. So
We're planning on doing the same thing for the Georgetown Trail, and it's not our idea. We stole it from Belton because they did it down the Giddy Poke Trail down Milton Creek. So when we get the Georgetown Trail built, we'll have exactly that. So, and then they work to plug it into the VSAP, which is your favorite way. So like you said, you can call on the mile marker. They like had it's P1 or B2 or November 3. Say I'm at this sign, and it's sort of plugged into the dispatcher's map.
Yeah. Think about design trails where people aren't going to crash and get hurt badly. But it is really cool to see the technology converging so that we can get responders quickly. I want to give an update on Camp Tahoya because it's newly open or soon to be open to the public. They had their first public event last weekend. They have a plan for their largest ever gathering on Eclipse weekend, and then in September they're going to have their grand opening. The map is difficult to see. Has anybody been to Camp Tahoya before? If you went from here southbound on I-35, it's 1 or 2 exits. On the east side, on the west side of I-35, about a mile. It's a Boy Scout camp that's been there since the 40s, and this is Tahoya Road, driving into the camp. The main entrance, drive past some tent camping facilities, the main entrance is at that corner. There is an old dining hall right here. Now further in, they're building a new conference center that is elevated. It looks through the trees down on a 5-acre lake. You can kind of see the lake up there. The mountain bike trails start, I may have a map of that on the next slide, but they're putting in, their desire is to create multi-generational camping experiences. So grandpas come out with grandsons grandmas want to be there because some of the cabins have air conditioning. They also have tents that have electric hookups so you can charge your phone. They'll have Wi-Fi service around most of the camp, so the QR codes will work well on the trails. They have limited meal service. You may be able to arrange catering, but they also have plenty of facilities for you to cook your own meals. It is a dramatic transformation from this private, primitive camping experience that scouts have enjoyed since the 40s to make it the facility accessible to the public. One of the tent designs is an Australian outback tent. It's kind of like a yurt. It's not like anything I'd seen before, but I thought, oh, that's cool. I think my wife would like to stay in that. So you'll hear and see more about this, but I'll tell you it's already a lot of fun. This is the existing trails are red, the green trails are new trails that we have built out there. There are about 5 waterfalls along this trail system, and at the top of the screen, you can barely make out that gray shadow is the Lampasas River. It has several hundred yards of river frontage, and there are beautiful limestone cliffs that are probably 60 or 80 feet high that are a joy to walk beneath.
How many acres is that?
I think it's 240 acres. And there are about 3 miles of trail out there now. I'm hoping we can tie it together to 5 miles of trail. For other people that are curious about mountain bike trails, locally Miller Springs has about probably 8 miles of mountain bike trail, total of 11 miles of hike trail. Dana Peak has about 20 miles of trail. There are now trails that will connect Stillhouse Hollow Park, where the marina is, to Dana Peak Park. And it's a warren, it's not a directional trail system, so you see people coming and going both directions. But it rivals any mountain bike trail I've ever ridden on. I really enjoy being out there. Camp Tohoyo opened September 24. Cameron Park is 45 minutes north. Georgetown Trail, the Riverfront Trail, or the Lake Georgetown Trail, 45 minutes south. Round Rock, Suburban, Ninja, Brushy Creek, or high-quality celebrated trails are about an hour south of us. We've got 100 miles of trail or more within an hour's drive of our community.
Do you see any of those trails having some type of future connectors? Like, is that in the planning process?
Brushy Creek's kind of the coolest one. It runs at least 10 miles long and it ties together a bunch of different areas.
And you have Suburban Ninja, you know, it's going down towards Sam Bass. Eventually, they've already started acquiring that land.
Oh, good. I hadn't heard that.
Yes, sir. And then, of course, be the regional, the concrete trail. But I was going to ask you, you didn't have Peddler's Pass on there, anything like that?
I don't know about that.
Oh, you know? Oh, okay. That's part of Brushy Creek. That's the one that Cedar Park hired us to build.
Okay.
And it's a very unique trail. And it's been to the point where it's almost gone back down to a single track. And you never know if even the machine's built when you got to it. But how many berms does it have? And it's all flat. There's no elevation. There's almost zero elevation change. But, you know Ronan O'Connor?
No.
He's the trail steward out there.
Okay.
Anyway, he built in 37 berms in this, like 2 mile, and we put a few little rollers in there, but it's like limestone rock. I mean, it's 99%, loose limestone rock, shale type rock, and it's a bumpy, right? They run a race on it because it's so bumpy. It's a challenge. Yeah, it's real close to Suburban Ninja.
This committee considered 2 or 3 years ago creating a portal where you could learn about places to bike in the county. And I think it kind of floundered, didn't it, Jason?
The lack of funding.
There was an app
Maintain the
developer.
website and contact.
So the best resource I know of is probably Austin Ridge Riders. They list the Peddler's Pass there.
Yes, sir. And yeah, I mean, by far, they're the best resource for local leaf trails. Any other resource they would have, road or, not known trail on there.
Maverick has been here to ride on the Dana Peak trails, and they have a outing schedule for Cameron Park, so they're expanding their
Nice.
list of trails and experience on
So do you work at Cameron Park also?
trails. I have no clear ride.
We've ridden there a few times.
Yeah, they used to have national level races at Cameron Park. It was the premier Texas Place. There's some other.
I have one more question, Kellen. What is it, what are the requirements to be a volunteer?
The Master Naturalist events loosely require everybody to be a Master Naturalist, the volunteers. That's kind of how you learn about them, is through the Master Naturalist network, email network.
So you have to take that, become certified before you can actually get out there to volunteer, and that's how you get your hours?
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't know about other ways actually, the city of Belton is coordinating volunteers at Miller Springs. They have about quarterly trail work days at Miller Springs that have been attended by 100 people. A lot of that's trash pickup. They're not building a lot of new trail out there now, but they do some trail maintenance with brush trimming. Yeah, one of the fun things about Master Naturalists is it brings people together who have all sorts of interests. I'm one of the oddballs that's interested in trails. Most people are interested in birds or fish or natural history, and it's probably half people that are my age, retirees, about half are younger people. But I really enjoy it. Meeting people from all over the county who have a variety of interests and activities. Commend them. Thank you for asking me to talk about it.
We actually have our next Miller Springs Fan Day scheduled for Saturday, May 4th. And we will be looking at extending some trails, some of the old, like B-Side Hollow and the outer ring.
Really? Woo, I'm happy to hear that. I need to hear more about that. Yeah, B-Side Hollow has kind of been a hazard, one of those where you need good emergency medical access because somebody's going to crash bad on that if we don't fix that trail. That's a major accident. You ever work with, I appreciate it. Is your email in there? Did I email you?
Yes.
Okay.
You ever work with Team Rubicon?
I have heard of them, but I haven't worked with them.
They're a nonprofit that it's more for disaster management. They go and clear out the underbrush and things like that to avoid the Vanity fire and things like that. Yeah, they might be somebody that could help with trail cleanup or anything like that. Go out with chainsaw teams and things like that to clear some of the underbrush that might be in your way. Maybe creating trails.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'll keep that in my hip pocket. I rode Pisgah Trail in North Carolina several years ago after a hurricane came through. There were trees that were bigger around than a person and they'd fallen across the trail out there, and they haven't cleaned up within a year, probably using a lot of volunteer labor as well as the National Park. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Kelly. That was great. Really complimented Kevin's presentation as well.
Okay, agenda item number 5, updated local and pedestrian activities by Anita, I believe.
Thank you. Thank you. McLean Children's Trauma Services, they are restarting their program Safe Kids Mid-Texas Coalition. And what it's going to really do for our region is going to be a go-to resource to help parents protect their kids from traffic crashes, drowning, sleep-related deaths, fires, falls, poisoning. I'm really going to enjoy the bicycle safety aspect of this and car seat safety. They did invite KTMPO to join that coalition, so there will be staff representation on it. And if you know anyone in any independent school district officers, they're looking for those types of individuals to join that coalition as well. And I'd like to encourage you as you continue to network in the community, share that with others as well. That is our current update.
And I would say it's worth that, and that came about, or the connection with trauma service folks, when they were doing the public engagement for this Safe Streets and Roads for All grant.
Yes.
I think y'all had gone out to an event, linked up with some of the organizers, invited to one of the Safe Streets stakeholder meetings, and found out they have a whole data set of trauma, crash, kids getting hit on bikes, old guys that break their arm and don't go to the emergency room. That They're still working with how much of the data can be released, but identify trends that, maybe there's a project that could happen, or maybe there's some public awareness that can be, pushed out. So that's, we found out that they're starting this, they do the kind of bike rodeos, teach kids how to put on a helmet and wear the helmet properly so you're preventing trauma. That's their goal, is to not be able to respond to the trauma, prevent the kids or the adults from getting hurt in the first place. Put guys like, oh man, he's out of work. So that was a great relationship that I know Nita, you'll be in touch with them and keep that going.
Yes, yes. And if anyone's interested in joining that coalition, they're looking for members to represent. So please reach out to Krista. I can email you the information if you're interested. We'll put it in the, it's in the note packet as well.
Public comment?
Yes.
KTMPO collects the public information and public comment, and I believe you have a couple to go over.
Yes. We had quite a few public comments since January, since our last VPAC meeting. Most of them were related to public safety. We did have one on January 28th that was related to bike safety, and we did research that and we were able to respond. There was a question regarding, is it legal to chain your bike up to a light post or a telephone pole in city limits? And I believe that it's going to depend on the jurisdiction of each of the entities, whether it's a city, a county, or a town. And there wasn't really any formal regulations or policies against it or for it.
And it may rely more on if it's private property, if it's on a school campus or shopping center. It may not be against city or state law, but if the college says, don't chain your bike to the light post, don't be surprised when you come out of class and the bike's gone. You may run afoul of private property that you may not be coming to.
Thank you for clarifying that, please.
Yeah.
Member comments. We'll need to fill the vice chair position come the June meeting, so everybody's aware. Any other member comments?
You wanted to talk about presentation for June?
Yeah, so for June, I talked to Keller and he gave me a person from the Corps of Engineers number to maybe get in and talk about the Dana Peak trails and different Stillhouse Hollow trails. Is there any other ideas that people will have, or public? I mean, it's open to public too, to bring in and talk about what we need to, way ahead and way forward. I'm really into that's really about King of the Mountain trails, and then Keller and the trail maintenance and trail safety kind of thing. So where are we going from here and moving forward to what we want to do next? The Corps of Engineers is a big thing because there's a lot of trails going in that are not authorized, I don't believe, over Dana Peak. They just they go out there and they pop up left and right. And how we can assist the Corps of Engineers to better maintain the trails. One of the biggest things that me and Keller talked about a while ago was that entrance into Dana Peak and the erosion that's continuously going on with that erosion, and how we as a community can help that. So if there's any ideas for the June meeting, I'd appreciate the effort to come forward and bring up your ideas. And next meeting is June 12th. Anything else? And we will adjourn the meeting. The time is